Should be back. The last part was saved.
Goggin.
What's up?
Since we've just had a half an hour discussion on Super Mario Maker, can we just assume that game is not going to get cut and move it into the thing that's on lock?
Yep.
That game's not going anywhere.
Well, okay, Chris, you're probably like the most impartial in this group at this point right now because of the argument so far, what's been the shittiest you've heard? Not even let's not use shittiest. Like, what was the weakest argument you've heard of the games that you've heard so far?
That we've talked about so far?
Yeah, like what was the argument you felt was probably the weakest?
Are we starting up again?
Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Rise of the Tomb Raider?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, wait, well, so far.
But Will didn't talk about it.
Yeah, well, yeah, we didn't really let him talk about it. I mean, I'm talking about literally Mario Maker, Ori, Destiny the Taken King. What was the other one? We had Phil talk about Until Dawn. That was the other one. Was there anything else? Those were it, right? Of those four, what's been the weakest? Of those four, what's the weakest argument?
Of those four,
like what was the discussion? You were like,
Wazzy had a good argument. I don't know, those were all good arguments. I guess if I had to choose, it would be Until Dawn.
Son of a bitch.
Sorry.
Was it because none of us argued against it, or was it just because you just?
Well, it's just because it's still a great argument. It's just that we talked for Super Mario Maker for half an hour, or in the Blind Forest.
Yeah, but the length of how those games are.
One game.
I know, but that's just the thing.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. We have one guy.
Every other argument is multifaceted. Until Dawn comes down to it does one thing really well. And I'm sure it does, and I want to play it. It's just that
he means the choice and the way the game responds to those choices.
Yeah,
exactly.
But
that's a thing that no other game's ever done.
I know, but it's
Undertale actually.
We haven't argued.
Undertale, I hate that game, so I don't know.
I would be good with Undertale going away.
You haven't played.
We haven't even talked about Life is Strange, but apparently more people.
No, we're gonna. I just need
of those four. I guess Until Dawn, but if I would rather if we could cut something like Undertale or Invisible Ink.
Yeah, this is basically we're basically assume when Ben joins.
I hate Undertale.
All right, so we're gonna do Undertale as soon as Ben gets back in, but assume the podcast is basically started. That was our break, unless everyone needs to grab something.
Do we? I mean, look, and I
understand that you want to make this quick, but this is
No. That's not what I'm saying, Goggin. That's honestly not what it is. I know this is going to be an all-day thing, and I'm willing to do
it. Good with that. I don't care.
The Steelers are playing in 20 minutes. I can tune out and watch the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just. I want to.
You guys want a system? I agree. We probably need to figure out something.
Who the fuck's going to listen to a 5-hour-long Game of the Year podcast by us?
It's not going to be 5 hours.
It's going to be 5 hours.
Wazzy. Can I?
Yeah, let it go, Wazzy. At this point, you're here.
Can I finish what I was going to say?
What's up?
Yeah, go ahead.
Invisible Ink has been on the chopping block a lot, and
that's where I'm going with this. I was actually sort of agreeing with this, Ben. You're way more passionate about Undertale, and I am way more passionate about Ori and the Blind Forest. I don't think we can get Invisible Ink on this. I'm okay with that. When our argument is entirely it's unique.
I'm okay with that
because he outright cut a more unique game, and but understand, I want to at least have my piece on that game. Making a turn... Yes, this is being recorded. Having a turn-based strategy game in the vein of XCOM and then making stealth a reasonable part of that thing is fucking amazing.
It's a really good
design. And Firaxis will never do that because it doesn't fit their game. But, Firaxis will never do that, and I swear I'll never see it in a AAA or, a Nintendo-made strategy game. And that's a little disheartening because Invisible Ink plays beautifully. It's really having that new dimension helps it stick out in a genre that can at times feel very samey in certain cases, even if there's unless you're Valkyria Chronicles, you really don't stick out in that genre all the time.
What I find really rad about the design is that because you can't just shoot people without consequences.
Yeah.
Most of your ways of disposing of people, you're usually creating some kind of timer, basically.
Yeah.
It's this guy's going to wake up in this amount of time. Or now their armor's accelerated this much. Or something like that. So it's everything's constantly kind of escalating in each level. It gets a little more frantic. You can only put out so many fires at once. Which is kind of very different from the rhythm of a lot of other turn-based action games where it's you kind of reach this climactic midpoint, I guess, where the enemies at their peak strength, and you're just like whittling it down until you get to the end where it's easy. Invisible Link, there's always tension at every level, and it's really cool that they were able to do that with the stealth design. I think it's a very good game. I didn't get to explore it enough. I can't defend it enough in this group.
It's more so I buy enough of your arguments for your games that. All right, let's cut the semantics.
That has to go of the games here.
And
while we're there, no, I'm kidding.
No.
So now you want to have the Life is Strange conversation, right? Because I think that and Rise and Undertale now need to get spoken about.
We also need to talk about Monster Hunter because Ben hasn't talked about Monster Hunter.
Yeah. And that's fair. If I'm going to be the main champion of that game, I have to defend it.
Yeah. Right, and I'm not saying I'm not trying to be like we have to cut this game or anything. I'm just saying we haven't discussed it and we need to.
We need to talk about it. And we need to find ways. Hold
on.
Yeah.
Those 4 games effectively got talked about.
Okay.
I'm 90% sure that those games need to be talked about.
So tell me why Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is one of the 10 best games of the year.
Because it's Ultimate, man.
It's the ultimate.
That's true.
Game.
No other game had the balls to put that in their subtitle.
I mean,
to be fair, it's only called Ultimate in this edition because it came here like 2 years later.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter 4 is a game I played the crap out of in Japan. And then I got this edition and I played even more of it than I did while I was in Japan.
What was the name of that restaurant, Ben?
Googies.
Googies!
Yes. That I wrote about in my review. And I think does a great job of marrying some of the most satisfying elements of action games with what's interesting about RPGs and progression without relying on just the tropes of just putting in experience points.
It's about gear.
It's about gear. And there's numbers to it. You're increasing your stats with your gear. But I mean, even when you're fighting the monsters, there's not like a health bar on screen. You don't see a higher number when you hit them.
Right.
But you can feel the progression as you go in a really satisfying way. Both in terms of your own knowledge increasing. Because Monster Hunter is basically a series of boss fights. Right. You're fighting these individual monsters. They all have their own kind of personality, their own behaviors, their own quirks about them, their own patterns. And at first, those fights are unfamiliar and difficult as you try and figure out where the openings are. You get hit a lot more. You have to use more healing items. The battles take longer. They can push towards the limit of the mission timer. But as you get better, those fights become simpler because you're learning the behaviors of the monster, whether your gear is better or not. And that lets you finish them more quickly, break more parts of the monster, which lets you get better loot in any individual monster encounter. And that makes that path towards better gear even faster. And there's so much content.
So
there's so many different monsters.
Is the main crux of this I need to get better gear?
Mix of that. What he's describing
it's
one part is you're gonna the carrot on the stick is you're gonna get better gear and you're gonna feel a sense of progression that way. But the raw satisfaction of the game is that you're gonna deal with these difficult enemies and that you're gonna have to learn patterns and learn.
So how accessible?
For me, it's
is
also
the game
finding new monsters
to try.
So, compared to I haven't played Try.
Brian
compared to any other.
Brian has. Well, Brian
can speak to that better than me.
Monster
no
Hunter
essay
4
this time.
Okay, I didn't write an essay for Super Mario. For Super Mario, I did.
For Monster Hunter.
It is. I would say it's probably the most accessible Monster Hunter game.
Mm-hmm.
Try made some steps in the right direction, but they ease you into things a whole lot more in Monster Hunter 4, like the mechanics, like making potions and trying out different weapons. Like the very first thing you do is the tutorial on fighting monsters from the ship, which is something in Try they did as like a download quest, and you pretty much had to do it and fail a bunch of times to know what you're doing. They talk you through the more difficult aspects, while in the same token, they give you room to experiment, they give you room to grow when fighting these enemies, and they give you a chance to actually learn how these enemies will move on and how they act in their environment. Because there's so many different levels to play it in, and you'll find that some of those monsters will inhabit different areas. Some of them are tougher versions of the original monster with extra things,
moves, new behaviors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you'll fight. They'll put multiple monsters in the same map in the same mission that you'll have to fight through, and they'll interact with each other. And you've got to make planning, and you've got to really know what you're doing. But they ease you into it in such a respect that, man, it sure puts the other Monster Hunters to shame.
Yeah, I think some of it is a gear thing. Some of it's like, I want to make this sword a better sword. And some of it is also like, there's a progression through both the single player campaign and through the multiplayer quests you could do either locally or online, where you're opening up new areas and you're opening up new monsters to fight. And that's exciting. That opens up, as you open up new monsters to fight, it also opens up new tiers of gear. So these things kind of work hand in hand. It's a different feeling kind of game. I know Goggin has spoken about his frustration about the camera controls.
I don't like the way the lock-on works, but I also haven't played enough of it.
The lock-on doesn't lock your character onto the monster, and it's only temporary. I think it's important that the systems work the way they do to allow you to specifically target different parts of the monster.
Have to work that way is what I'm saying. Like, I know you can target different parts of the monster, but like, why? Because like whenever I hear about Monster Hunter, I hear like a bunch of apologies about its shortcomings as features, and I just
feature-wise, I think there's it's bursting with stuff.
I mean, like I hear like, oh,
well, he's saying like, there's always
this way because if not, and it's like, no,
whereas like, for instance, people don't like the way...
the reason I was asking about like accessibility, like these games are pretty notoriously impenetrable. And we just had a huge discussion about a game that like shines because of its accessibility. So therefore, a game that's inaccessible, well, that would be a bad thing, wouldn't it?
No. Well, I think that kind of limits what you're talking about in terms of video games, right? If you say every game has to be like this, then you're cutting off the diversity.
Well, I mean, listen,
I think it's great.
All he's doing is presenting a very similar argument you guys present to him.
Yeah,
because he's sort of right.
There have been years where people have been pointing out ways that these games could do things better, and they just don't do it.
Yeah, well, let's get to the point. Okay. Why does the lock-on work the way it does?
The reason, like, what makes that lock-on important, that makes it easier for you to target specific parts of enemies, is, and to, like, know that you have to explore it yourself, and then finding those specific parts, that's what opens up new drops when you fight the monster.
So here's my question.
When you get better at the game, you farm more efficiently, which is fun.
All right, so here's my thing. Effectively, sometimes it's in your best interest to basically not lock onto the thing, right? Right. To get the hit you want?
Kind of, yeah.
Then my question is, then why is the lock-on the way it is? Like, it basically doesn't need to be in the game. I feel like you would inherently focus less on trying to press that button. Like,
although I will say that
to me, there's a psychological aspect of it. Of when you give me a lock on, it's been fucking ingrained in my head to use that lock on. Like, it's Ocarina of Time.
I use it all the time in Monster Hunter, but it's just to orient myself, really.
Okay.
If I could say, in Monster Hunter Tri, in previous Monster Hunters, there was no lock on.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So this is the very first one to have any sort of lock-on system.
I didn't have a good one, though.
At all.
Yeah, and it's a big help.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely is. It's tough going back without it.
I don't know. I'm just speaking as someone who has tried time and time again to get into these games, and I just can't. And I don't feel like it's... Like, on some games, like, I will just not like them for personal reasons, and I feel like this game is almost built for me to start, because I just don't think it's very good. I did play a little bit of 4. I mean, all I played was the demo that they put out, but
I think 4 does a better job of introducing all the mechanics, like the kind of like the trapping on monster stuff.
I wish it was a little bit more elegant because it sort of like just beats you down with text in the early going.
Yeah, it's I guess kind of legacy of a series that's gradually grown more complex and has built these mechanics on top of it itself.
But I wish they would like be more elegant and like I don't think, I feel like the Souls games have found a good balance of bringing those people that never liked how vague the Souls games were, like getting them to join the party and saying like, listen, we're not going to completely bend over backwards for you, but we're going to make an attempt.
Yeah.
Whereas Monster Hunter, like technically they did, their solution is something that just pisses me off, which is I don't like overdone tutorials like that. Like I hate tutorials that way.
Yeah.
Which whatever, that's a stupid reason to not play the rest of the game. Fine, but I'm just saying that.
But I mean, I'm just so impressed with the game in terms of, like I could stay engaged with that content over the course of like 130 hours.
Right. So Life is Strange.
And come out of it feeling good.
So Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Life is Strange. And the game Life is Strange. The things that really worked for me, first and foremost, I can't, other than Bully, I personally haven't played too many games where the setting is basically like high school, right? That helps the game a lot. Being a teenage girl, I have no
Life is Strange, I think, is college.
Is it college? It's more like...
Yeah. I think they're like... It seems like high school.
It's like either that or it's like a weird, like, only seniors.
It's a very private high school.
Community college, maybe?
Yeah, it's not a community college, though. Whatever, let's not get into the context of what school it is. Point is, it's a schoolgirl, and she's a teenager. No, yeah, she's a teenager.
She's 18.
She's 18.
Yeah. An 18-year-old girl, right? And that's a setting that doesn't get explored a lot because, I mean, in a lot of genres, like, you will never make an FPS with that character. Why would you? But the Telltale model worked beautifully for this studio, and it goes back to some of the things. For instance, Ben, I know you played Remember Me, and one of the things you thought that game did really well was the weird rewind thing it had going on and the memory stuff, right?
Right.
Thanks for the on like a 10-minute delay, asshole. Anyway, and building a mechanic that way. So you play as Max Caulfield, and she gets the power to rewind time, right? And you're thinking, oh, okay, yeah, this is how she gets out of jail free card for a lot of things. But it ended up being a really cool thing for the way these games play, right? Like when you think of Telltale games, you pick a dialogue option, and it tells you, this person's going to remember this, yo! And then you move on with the decision making. But like the beauty of Life is Strange is, and I really like this, was being able to rewind and being able to play through all the choices real quick. And just seeing what the immediate result was.
Yeah, I missed that when I went to a Telltale game afterwards.
Yeah, like and like you don't know the long-term effect necessarily, but being able to actually see some immediate results colors your decision making a little bit differently, right? Because sometimes you start thinking, like, do I really want to deal with Chloe's dad that badly for the rest of this? Like, am I actually going to let her get bitch smacked? Because in my game. Or Chloe, for instance, you can either watch her get slapped the ever-loving shit out of her face by her father, her stepdad, right? You can take the fall for her and say, oh, the weed was yours, or whatever.
Yeah.
And I forgot what the third option is, but, yeah. You can blow up a spot and a thing. Like, there's moments like that in the game, and being able to play through all those three scenarios real quickly and not sort of like, well, I wonder what would have happened. Like, going to YouTube, first of all, that adds to the game. And the game finds not necessarily difficult puzzles, right? But it finds ways to make that mechanic, her ability to rewind time, as a part of the gameplay, as a part of something you are doing as a player. It feels mechanical as opposed to, like too often in The Walking Dead Season 1, you fell into just basic pixel hunting.
Well, like more so in Season 2, where you're just basically watching the whole thing.
Yeah, like you're more a passenger in certain cases, where in this, like, there's a big part in the diner, I want to say the 4th episode, where you're rewinding time back and forth because you're trying to get a new piece of information from everyone. They do a good job in the first episode.
I think it's episode 3.
Yeah. So in the first episode, there's this girl knocking on this other chick's door because she's mad at her because apparently she fucked her boyfriend, but she didn't. You don't know that character's name. Max Caulfield doesn't know that character's name because Max keeps to herself. So naturally, she tries to guess her middle name and last name, and the other girl's like, yeah, get the fuck out. It's this, right? So you just rewind time, and then you give her, and she's like, oh my god, you actually know me. I'm so sorry. Like, she actually realized, like, okay, maybe I am being a bit of a bitch, right?
There's another case in the same episode where, like, you're like, you don't know about this other chick's mother, and you're trying to, like, sympathize with her, and she's like, no, get the fuck out, you don't know me, whatever. And then, like, through a different conversation, you learn about the mother, you can go back and rewind, and and then, like, you've built up this relationship with this person that you wouldn't have fucked.
And it goes back to some of, like, the fundamental ideas of game design. You teach someone something very basic in the beginning, and then you do something a little bit more complicated later. This is where they taught you could do this with the rewind mechanic. Later on, you do an entire stretch where you're dealing with 3 or 4 characters, where you're trying to get one little piece of information from every single person, so you can get new dialogue exchanges, just so you can get this one guy's keys. Like, it sounds simple, but then, like, you do these, like, varied conversations, and that adds to the playing it part. And
they're interesting puzzles.
No one who plays this game, no one who likes this game will disagree with anyone and say that the script doesn't have issues. It very much reads like a bunch of 40-year-olds trying to stay hip with the kids, right?
Yeah. And even
my first short story level of...
It's not my first short story. It's that they don't know how young people speak.
It's that they just don't realize how, like, young people talk to each other in the year of our Lord 2014 or whatever it takes place.
Oh, sure.
So, but later on in the latter episodes, they kind of lean into it in a way that you kind of realize, okay, well, maybe now it's a thing. Like, maybe they heard that feedback, and now it's like, okay, But
it's like,
but
once
there's nothing we can do about it now, so here's
early
this
on,
weird thing.
Yeah, early on, they were too heavy on the slang, and it's like, none of us use, like, people have, like, 1 or 2, like, I use mad a lot, but that's
You're hella freaking out, man.
Yeah, I don't use hella, for instance, too often. And then...
Nobody talks like
anyway,
that.
the script, while has its issues... The one thing that I constantly kept going back to that story was that it had heart in spades. I mean, it's not even close with that game in some other stories. You know what I mean? Because just the nature of what that story is. It is about, discovering yourself. It is about, all that sort of, like, insecurity you have when you're at that young age where you're not confident, you're not sure of certain things. And watching Max grow into a confident character and, like, more in control... Right? Like, that adds to the experience. Like, Max, to me, had one of the best...
It's a fantastic narrative. Like, it's just... The way it presents itself, like, everything about it is just, like...
The gut punch at the end, even if you know it was coming, because, come on, is so well-earned because throughout that entire story, you had to make peace with the fact that you just have to let things go, which is, like, a thing that we don't learn, I feel like, when we're younger. Like, you can't just let things... I mean, this fucking podcast is that we have a hard time of letting things go over some petty shit, but Max, over the course of the story, has to let go of some heavy shit, man. Like, there's parts in that story where, like, it's a universal pain that Max feels because you can easily empathize with it, but too often stories like this fall into the idea of where they manipulate you into feeling sad. This felt more genuine because you buy what this character meant, and you buy that, you know what, she really didn't have another option at this point.
Right.
So, like, that adds to the story a lot. I think there are... I wouldn't say mechanical shortcomings, but it is the least... I mean, it or Until Dawn, I guess, are, like, the least mechanics-heavy game here. But in both cases, I would still go... It wasn't... At least in Life is Strange, I don't feel it was at a detriment to the experience.
There are some games you look at that feel like they're on autoplay.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's the case with Until Dawn or Life is Strange.
And my biggest thing with Life is Strange is
I definitely felt like that was the case with, like, Walking Dead Season 2.
Yeah. And to me, Life is Strange, the story goes hand in hand with what you're doing mechanically as well. And that adds to the experience. Whereas, it's whatever. Other than that, Splatoon... It's a different thing. I guess that game is very mechanics heavy. I don't think the single player is that good necessarily, but I know Ben and Brian really like it. I think the final boss is really well done. But it can, like, I think Nintendo's excellence in level design showed in the map designs. They're so fucking well made. Really,
and they keep bringing them out.
A lot of points of a lot of points of ingress and egress.
I would be okay with just moving Splatoon to the lock list.
I actually agree. I think I've only heard nothing but positive. I've seen a lot of video.
It is.
Out of all the ones that are there, Splatoon just makes so much sense to move that.
It's such a perfect game design too. It's just like
let's be honest. The only reason it got slaughtered in its original reviews is because it really was thin on content.
It released early access, but it eventually earned its $60 price tag.
Yeah, I mean, then that's unfortunate that's how that game launched, because everything about it has just bubbling with creativity and strategy, which cleverly hidden behind the facade or whatever of Nintendo. I am really not being able to use English today.
I mean, what's kind of amazing, there's like the designs, like being able to like shoot out ink and then like switch to swimming in it, like in the abstract seems really bizarre, but because of the aesthetic they chose, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. You don't even think about it.
What's the last game that we have?
I love that about it. We
haven't talked about Undertale, and then we need Will to go full. And I mean, all right, so let's do the Rise of the Tomb Raider conversation, because that one's, I think, the hardest one, because literally only one. That and Until Dawn, it's literally one person has played that game. Mm-hmm. And listen, some of us could have actually played that game. We just decided, fuck you, I want to play the PC version.
I'm sure it's really good too. And
William, do you absolutely agree that it must be one of the 10 best games this year? 10 in our top 10. Does anyone really want to hear... I don't want to put it that way. Does anyone feel he needs to make an argument for it?
Yes.
Yeah, because I still don't understand why.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah.
Is that one of my games?
Unfortunately, you are up against everyone's baby, so...
Well, isn't that the point that we're at?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I was like, hey, listen, I was trying to get you a freebie lock, but the freebie lock isn't happening.
No. Look,
but we got 5 more to go.
All I can say is, like, if you think of anything that you had a problem with in the last Tomb Raider game, and, a lot of us were just sitting there like, this game is this close to being that great game. Rise of the Tomb Raider is like, oh, you didn't like this? Fixed. Everything. The animals are threatening. Fighting a bear in that game is fucking terrifying, because it will kill you in about 3 seconds if you don't do anything about it. Every time you go into a cave, you're just kind of like, oh shit, is there a bear in here? Like, the climbing mechanics have been improved. There's a lot of different ways to traverse the map. You still have that slight little niggle of annoyance where sometimes, like, something explodes and it takes a little longer to get back, but by and large, they've gotten rid of that. Things don't explode every time Laura touches them.
Do they crack and or break?
Occasionally, but significantly less. Okay. The environments are absolutely gorgeous.
I didn't have a problem with that. I was just asking.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, I don't have an issue with it.
Early on.
I love Tomb Raider 2013. I really do.
I think
this one is because they did that stupid exclusivity deal.
Yeah. I mean, part of me would be okay with revisiting this discussion next year when everybody's played it, but it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, my stance with that is we would never make that exception for any other game. This seems like
I know, and
really
fucking Microsoft.
Right.
But I have to say though, if we're gonna cut this because only one person's played it, Until Dawn also, by fairness.
So that's listen. This is why I always go back to this. If we ever run into a year where I want to be that asshole, I want no rule stopping me from being that asshole. So I don't. To me, it still comes down to best argument carries the game, and I don't think any of us have a problem with Until Dawn making that list right now. Nope. Other than the fact that if it comes at the expense of my game, right?
Yeah.
Right? That's the only argument we all have against it, right? Whereas, for instance, Monster Hunter 4, even though only Ben and Brian have really played it, some of our misgivings also come back to the very nature of what Monster Hunter has been for so long.
Right.
Like, that style of game doesn't appeal to me. Which WASD, Mario Maker, whether some of us have played it. In my case, I have played it. It's just, I think we can all agree, my fundamental issue seems to be that I don't want to accept the part about that game where I had to play shitty levels here and there.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? I don't think that's a fair argument. Like, if he played it and it plays that well and he's got a good enough argument, that's all I want. I want a good enough argument, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we would have cut Destiny, but again, we go back to this. I like your argument for that game in spite of the fact that I think Destiny is shit and Bungie sucks. right? But I'm fair. So let's be fair.
That's very generous of you.
Yes. I'm just saying, like, let's be fair at the same time.
Okay.
So here's my beef with, not beef with Rise of Tomb Raider. Here are the things I have questions on. Is she a better developed character because she sucks in the first game?
Yes.
Because I never bought her character development in that game. I thought everything was contrived. I think, it was silly for them to actually play the card, and then all of a sudden she's all, come back, or I was like, I'm going to get you, motherfucker, whatever the fuck she said.
Yeah.
I think,
what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it definitely is a better developed character. You don't have those really awkward moments of, the really up close death, and then the killing people is so easy. Little bit of psychosis that she goes through later. Look, the female James Bond Tomb Raider is always going to be like the best kind of that thing that character could be, but she's not that. But she's much more complicated. She has this kind of conflict with herself where she's incredibly damaged from like the experiences on the island, but she's also a treasure addict. Like, she can't imagine a world where she's not going and finding stuff. And the people that are sticking with her because of her decision to, like, not be able to give that up despite the fact that she's been traumatized by it, like, hurts people around her. And it's really interesting to kind of watch that character deal with that. So it's more complex. The characters that are around her are more complex. And again, you have these I don't want to give this storyline away, but the supernatural element that it brings into it, because it's Tomb Raider, of course, but the supernatural element that it brings into it are like dealing with a lot more interesting things than the last time. Just kind of the nature of time and death and the loss of culture. So it's significantly better written, I would say, especially in terms of how everything comes into play through the environment and how the environment is used to tell stories. And not only is it that you find like like in the last game where you find like a little piece of something and then it's like, oh, look, this ties into the plot. Entire areas are designed around this part of this world has a past. The things that you're going to find in here have a past and contribute to the overall story. So when you see an item telling you about, hey, this ship got wrecked here and it messed with this plot line that took place a long time ago that's interfering with what you're doing now. You see the ship. You go into the ship. You find relics from the ship. You see how it's been shifted and broken in the ice, and you're finding the remnants of that expedition as well. So it feels like a Tomb Raider game, even though that the number of tombs is not enormous. It's bigger. There's more of them, and they're very good, but the entire game is a constant journey of discovery of these environments and the stories that they're telling.
Do they throw you into combat, like, kind of inappropriately in the same way that they did in the first one?
Be a little more clear for me, Phil. What do you mean?
All right, so in the first one, I felt like a lot of the combat sequences were very contrived, like Monster Closet type bullshit, where like, oh, I entered this area and there's some walls here, and then oh no, out that door pops 4 goons. Like, do they do the same shit in this one?
There are a couple areas where that is, but I don't think it's quite as much. It kind of tends that way towards the end, just because the end gets to like the culmination of all these big events that happen. And you have that like Laura versus kind of a lot of people thing, but by and large, the combat that you get thrown into is based on the environment and the story of the environment. Like when I'm talking about the ship that you find in the ice, there's very little to almost no combat in that area.
And you mentioned animal combat before, which was not in the last game.
So it's like, hey, I have to go in this area, but this is a cave, and there's probably a fucking bear. So that's.
What if I told you there are giant spiders in Tomb Raider Go?
What?
We got Tomb Raider Go already.
What?
Let it go.
God damn it!
You got it.
What?
But yeah, I mean, no, I think it's much better at the environment speak to the nature of the combat encounters that you're going to get. You're not going to wander into a big clearing with little reeds and there's going to be a bear. That doesn't happen. You're not going to wander into an area that it doesn't make sense for people to set up camp in and like, oh my god, look at all these dudes. Why are they hanging out in this ruin? That doesn't happen in this game. It's more along the lines of, hey, we're looking for something, and so they've camped in this clearing where they have good visibility so they can see the animals, and they built this fire, and then you stumble across that very naturally because you're like, hey, look, there's smoke. What's over there? And then you kind of go into that. And the environment is just much bigger. Huge.
I'm excited to play this game when it comes out on PC, I guess, at the end of the month.
The 28th.
28th. So I'm very excited to play it because, like I said, I really loved the first one. I wouldn't have a problem with putting it on the list, personally.
But now we need to get to Undertale. So let's get this conversation over with.
Okay.
Fuck Undertale.
Why?
It's not.
Why fuck Undertale? I want to hear that first.
For one, it looks like what?
Okay, that's already shit.
Let's get over the way. Okay, no, let's go further than it looks like butt.
Okay, so I have.
You have the floor. You have the floor now. You haven't played Undertale.
I have played it.
All right, so
you have played it.
Wait, fine. The initial thing is you want to hear the argument against Undertale first, or do you want to defend it first? I don't have hate for it. I don't have hate for it. All I want
to hear is hate for it.
Phil's whatever. Like Phil's joking. He's joking.
He has to stay in this as much as you. He can stay. Why does he hate it?
He literally just said he doesn't like the look of it.
I hate it. I hate it for the same reason that I didn't like Guacamelee, and I feel like it's like a twee like internet thing. Look at all this Twitter joke bullshit. Like like the whole Sans Papyrus joke is completely contrived because because of the fact that like Comic Sans sucks. So wouldn't it be so funny if we put it here? And he also makes bad puns and like look, he's a skeleton. And that's a weird internet thing. Like, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like that the game is sold as like, you don't have to fight enemies. And then it turns out that, like, if you do fight enemies, the game, like, basically calls you a monster for, wanting to play an RPG like in a fucking RPG instead of playing it like happy fun time.
Whoa. That is... okay, as someone who actually isn't super into that game, that is not what that game is in that context. Because, like...
Game scolds you actively for killing you.
It should, but like no, that's different. Why shouldn't it? Because it's not. Because the game is basically it is a decision you make. If you are going to kill them, the game's going to like. If anything, it stops doing the video game side of the things where it's like, oh yeah, way to go, killer.
So okay, at that point, don't give me the choice then, because obviously you don't want me to make this other choice.
This is not necessarily that they don't want you to make the choice. It's just that the world is going to react that way to. Why'd you kill those things? Like,
it's stupid and it takes me out of it because like I feel like as a player.
Why is it? Wait, time out. It doesn't. Time out. It doesn't take you out of the game. You didn't even play it. So that's a dumb argument. Yeah,
I did play the game.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't think that's a fair argument.
I just said before that I played the game.
Oh, okay.
What did you play? I'm just curious.
But here's the thing: how many games have good and evil where when you do the evil playthrough, it's same fucking ending, same reaction? You just slaughtered them.
Something's attacking me and then I kill it.
But you don't have. That's like the system.
But you're slaughtering these people.
Like you're getting mad at the game for actually giving you an actual honest to god choice.
It's not an honest to god choice.
What's not honest? What's contrived about it?
There's nothing honest about the choice.
What's
the choice
forced
is there
about it?
Because the choice has to be there because
you don't have to kill them either.
You don't have to kill them
and then spare them.
Yeah,
you weren't doing that.
Yes,
you can. Yeah, you could spare them when they're beaten.
So that's the run option then.
No. There's an actual run option.
There's a flee option and there's a spare
flee option and a spare option. Like you could people fight the whole time, then spare them at the last second. You could beat the shit out of them, so you could beat them by fighting, and that does change up how the story plays out because you're not just giving them the option to I'm trying to hug them to death. You're actually trying to kill them at the last second. You don't. It does play into the whole thing. Like you don't have to kill them.
When I was playing, I didn't beat the game, but like I just don't. There's nothing about that game.
But here's my problem.
I don't understand.
Look, guys,
the huge
the thing that gets me is as someone who hasn't played it. But the idea to me is like, look, if a game is being, and this is what it sounds like to me, and maybe someone who's played it can clarify this, but. It sounds like the game is putting you in a situation where your first option is, I'm under attack, I need to defend myself.
Not necessarily, but okay, so if anything, here's what happens. You fight the flower isn't even the first thing you can kill in that game. You're going to be put in a JRPG style to battle, yes, but when you kill it, the game will point out, like, oh, yeah, you're going to kill things, right? And in the long run, there's a genocidal playthrough, but it's not like everyone in the game just dogpiles on you and calls you shit, first of all. But it is an active choice. You choose to kill something in that game, the world will react that way. You choose to go throughout that entire game and be a pacifist, which you have an option for, right? And the battle still plays. It's not like you just randomly decide to have dialogue options. You have to actually play out a battle system. Like, you're always going to play that. Bullet hell's a wrong way of describing it, but your heart always has to
I think
dodge.
that sucks too, but that's another
Fine.
thing.
We can get into the mechanics of it, because I actually don't like that part of the game. But the part I don't buy contrived. Like, nothing about it is forced on you.
I think the whole thing is forced on you. Like, I think they came up with this idea that, like, oh, well, we'll make it so they can talk your way out. You never have to kill anything.
Well, that is the dumbest thing.
And then, like, I feel like the ways, like, it manifests itself are just weird. Like, I don't know. I just don't like
Listen, I think there's mechanical issues there, but I don't think it's forced. Like, that's... The concept of the game is that you're going to play a RPG where you have the option to be a pacifist, right? That's fine. Here's what I don't like about the pacifist playthrough, right? I feel like the only time the playing it part of that game is particularly interesting is at least when the combat's at least rhythmic, and then whatever, you're doing the dodging thing. When the act stuff is clever is, we talked about this the other day, Ben, is like when the game actually comes up with like really interesting things, like the 2 dogs that come over to see you, where first you're going to check them out, and then you're going to have your character roll around in the snow or the dirt, and now he smells like another dog. And then you win the dogs over individually, and then you want them to, and then they want you to lick them or like get pet and all that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, get petted by a dog, and they respond to the like, idea that a dog is petting a dog, right? Like, that stuff's clever, but then other times, for instance, the very first fight against the mother character, basically, that fight,
Oriel?
The solution to that being pacifist is hit the spare button until your fucking thumb bleeds. Because, and like, every now and then the dialogue changes, but it takes a little, like, it was very, like, not clear, and I don't necessarily want everything in that game to be clear that way, but it wasn't particularly interesting. Like, in the case with, Papyrus, at least when Brian said he could beat it on one go without ever killing him, right? Like, you said you did it once, wham, bam, you were done.
I didn't even get into his garage.
Yeah, alright, fine.
Yeah.
In my case, I ended up in the garage 3 times, but it wasn't
same.
it was anything, and it was like, this was mildly funny when he put me in the garage once, but if I really had to do this 3 times to spare this guy, that just seems silly to me after a certain point.
No, you can beat him. He's just a very difficult fight.
You can
That's
get
the
through
thing.
it. You just have to not get hit a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those like the difficult. It's one of those few things like
it's based on performance. Okay,
best players are going to be able to get through it,
which is fine.
But
okay, that one I can
punishes everyone
accept.
else
But
for
there's
sucking.
other scenarios in that game
me.
where, you know, like, again, I don't like the idea of calling it force because, like, no, it's the idea of the game. Like, that's not force. It's just the idea they came up with. What I don't like about it is that they're not always clever with how they want you to play pacifist. And
Not all the enemy
like,
encounters are equally.
And yeah, it was like, listen. I think the writing is a lot better than internet humor. It starts off that way, and then it develops into like whatever. I have a fucking soft spot. I have a soft spot for the puns, but I think it does get legitimately funny.
It's like with Papyrus, for example. It's like his gimmick is not just like I'm a skeleton who talks in papyrus font. Ha 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 ha. It's there's a character there, and you get to know that character over the course of the game, and you know he's kind of goofy.
Yeah,
but you know he's like. And, like, that's sort of how a lot of that game worked to me. It was, like, in the first... It does take a little while to get going, I think. Like, you can sort of see what it is in the ruins, but as you get deeper into the game, it sort of develops on the ideas it initially introduces to you, both by kind of, like, bringing jokes and elements back, and by developing the characters you encounter, and developing the world you encounter. So that's not just, like, this twee beam thing. Yeah. It's trying to get across the underlying humanity of the world and the characters. And I don't think it's perfect in that sense. I'm not one of those people who's like super duper high on the game, but I think it's a really special game. It uses the act of playing the game and like the awareness that like you're playing a game on a computer in a lot of smart ways that most games don't do, even more than like the BioShock sense of like, oh, you're following the rules because your brainwashed or something.
Yeah, like event they had a more like a dialogue trick than anything.
But and this is like, for example, like I think that Toriel battle at the beginning, like that's not the most fun way to deal with it, and it's like almost impossible to actually lose it in that sense. Like once you get to low health, she stops trying to hit you.
Yeah. Well, no, here's the thing. At first I thought it was going to be one of those things where you have to hit her a few times. And then if she gets halfway on health, she auto-dies if you hit her one more time.
It basically intentionally sets up...
Yeah, like that, if anything, yes.
Like, oh, I can fight a while, and then I'll get her low, and I can spare her. And intentionally it's like, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, and it's basically... And you're gonna fuck this up. That's the one instance where I would argue that was forced on me.
Which kind of mean-spirited.
Forced a death on me.
One of the first parts of that game.
Yeah, I agree. But I'm saying like the game gets way better about that shit later.
But it gets a lot better about that.
I feel that
that's cool, but like I didn't play that much past that because like the game just lost me.
That was a really shitty part of the game though. Like I don't agree, but I'm saying
like, after I met the skeleton brothers and then I went through that like crossroads section, then I was just like, you know what, I think I'm done. Like I don't know. This game like just doesn't seem like it's something I'm gonna like.
That's fine, but
it's possible.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm necessarily gonna like it.
Yeah.
But then like what it does is like if you want to do a pacifist playthrough, like okay, I gotta relive the game and figure this out. Yeah. And then when you do that, the game acknowledges, oh, you went back to your save.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a little annoyed that it knew I was saves coming, but not like in a like I'm angry at the game. Annoyed that I was like, fuck, this game knew. This game knew.
It's like, you kill a bunch of those guys, you go back, and that little flower guy will chastise you.
Good. It seems uneven enough that we should cut it.
I mean, I think when that game is strong, it's really good.
Yeah, the story in that one just if you actually take your time, read everything, talk to characters.
I have a hard time shitting on Undertale for this stuff when one of the other story games here is look at all these horror tropes we subvert. Look at how funny we are.
Is it even really subversion?
Shots fired.
I mean, at that point,
I've seen.
You have Ori that has like a kind of okay first part, and then the story is shit for the rest of the game.
I mean, if you're saying we need to cut Ori and Until Dawn,
no.
Until Dawn has a lot of gameplay. What are you talking about?
No, Ori is
hold the controller really still.
Yeah.
And so it's like if we're gonna judge a game on its merits,
all I'm saying is like I don't agree with the twee argument against Undertale. I think Undertale is a lot more clever than I actually like its characters and story. I just don't like the playing it part.
I think Ori is a much more twee.
And whatever, maybe I don't like. I dislike the playing it part is probably strong too because the playing it part adds to some of the story. But at the same time, like the battle system itself, part of the game could be a little bit more interesting.
I don't.
I actually thought a lot of the boss fights cleverly mixed up how they presented.
I think
the
Papyrus
battle system.
Was. I thought what's the first major boss
when you're fighting Mettaton, the big robot guy. The way that those were presented was just not only clever, but it changed the gameplay up and changed the bullet hell part of it. And it was just I very much enjoyed it. The thing is, I don't know if it would hold up to multiple playthroughs.
Well, I mean, I played the game
twice. All the gimmicks are gone. Okay,
it's not. I mean, it's and that those parts of it aren't quite as good though. You get better at them, so it goes faster.
Yes, that's true.
But there's actually a lot of different like small things you can kind of do differently, and the game both kind of acknowledges that you're going through it again, so that shows up some new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also like do some kind of different things, make some different choices, explore different places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had fun going through it the second time.
All right. Are we all in agreement that Super Mario Maker is probably not getting cut?
I'm in agreement that it's not getting cut.
I am in agreement.
I never got to say that. I don't think a game that focuses on an editor. I never ever thought those are really good.
I don't want to call it. I don't want to call them non-games, but I am in your boat of saying. It's a nice little thing.
That's part of the reason why everyone says, "Oh, Gary's mod's so good." I'm like, yeah, can't get into this. Don't like the idea that I have.
All right, so Mario Maker's not auto locked in. I was gonna say
I couldn't get into Gary's mod at all. But
are we all convinced? Are we all convinced that Life is Strange belongs in this top 10?
I don't know.
I could see it going.
Wow, this has really gotten this dicey that Life is Strange is going. Yeah, fuck.
Yeah,
I could see it staying. I could see it going. I mean,
me too. Yeah.
Wozzy,
I guess if I have to pick a story game, it's going to be Undertale.
Yeah.
Because it's more of a story game than really.
But it's not more of a story than Life is Strange. Life is Strange is all story. No,
but it's still. I put Undertale more toward Life is Strange and Until Dawn than a classical RPG. Just because
I mean, if I'm being honest, Ben, and I don't want to do this to your game, but might have an uphill battle getting Monster Hunter 4 on this.
I gotta sense that.
We have to cut.
Are you willing to let it go? 2. Are you willing to let it go? Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, we do have to cut 3. No, we don't. No, yeah, we do.
It's got 3 games.
Yeah, so I think Monster Hunter 4 doesn't hang.
I think Monster Hunter. I think Monster Hunter 4. I want it to stay. Yeah. I don't think it's going to stay hang. I think.
But at the same time, let me say this. At the same time, I'm way more into Ben's argument for Monster Hunter 4 than I am Rise of the Tomb Raider. At the same time,
I think Rise of the Tomb Raider doesn't hang.
I think this is super unfair because nobody else has played it.
I mean, I think it's super unfair since you'd be cool with Monster Hunter 4 going when you haven't played it.
I'm not cool with it. I just
okay.
That's the nature of this beast.
But at the same time, only one person's played Until Dawn. So
I mean, the other thing, let's all agree. Monster Hunter 4, as much as I don't think it's gonna make it. Because I'm cool with.
That's a great game.
I'm willing to I'm thinking of okay, I'm not already cutting Ori, but what games would I be cool with losing to Ori? Undertale, fine, whatever. I get your passion for that game. Monster Hunter 4, I tried to play that game, and you would think that game is more up my alley. And it's fucking Capcom.
I can only blame myself for not doing more monster hunting with you.
Yes, you can only blame yourself.
You can only blame yourself.
Can I propose a
top 10
offer?
Wait, are you going to propose the other 2 cuts? Propose the 2 cuts.
Destiny?
Yeah.
I feel strongly about
not going to survive.
I'm with you. I like that game. I think the fact that we've managed to get it this far is
honestly impressive when you think about it.
I think that a lot
of me and Chris definitely thought that would be gone in the first round of cuts.
Yep.
I think that a lot of things getting praised about the Taken King didn't actually come with the Taken King. They came a little bit before that.
Look, all I'm saying
some of the things they're fixing that we're praising it for, are not a result of the actual the Taken King content, which I don't think it's fair to count all the other content in the game, and then then it only gets on this list because of the Taken King came out.
I mean, we can cut Destiny on that argument alone.
You fought a good argument.
The game is 1,000 times better than it was, but it's not solely because of Taken King. And since we're doing just what came out this year, that would be the final patch and Taken King.
Well, hold on.
It also came from Crota.
Wazzy, hold on. Here's what I was gonna say. Here's what I was gonna say. I think because of how much we like some of these other games, and because none of them were in the position of having to fix a fuck-up, I think that's their real advantage. And I think, unfortunately for the Taken King, it being an add-on did ultimately color some perception of it, fair or not. And I think it's admirable that you fought for that game. And, whatever, you had to get... I had to fucking push you
really
into
far.
it. Yeah, you got it really far.
In a weaker year, we probably would have let it slide.
Yeah, in a weaker year.
That's the thing is,
and honestly, back to Chris's point, in a strong year, in considering how much we like some of these other games that we cut already, you fought the fight, and that's
we did good, Wazzy. I just think, I don't
I just can't go in with your Rise of the Tomb Raider thing, though, man. I hate to stab you in the back.
Yeah,
I mean, for my
personally, I don't see why Rise can't count for this coming year because of its weird situation.
Because why would it? Why would we make? When have we ever made that exception for anything else?
Came out in
Microsoft.
It came out on a console. You don't own the Xbox One. William owns it. I own it. Chris owns an Xbox One. Adam owns an Xbox One. The only thing stopping us
isn't about fairness.
Yeah,
don't worry.
We've been more than fair
on the PC, and we realized that you were right. You can tell us that you were right.
Yeah.
No, look. I think there.
I mean, here's the thing.
I think there
here's
are
the thing. At the same time,
that deserve it less.
Until Dawn is also one where I'm going. Phil fought a good fight, but I'm still going with.
Until Dawn.
One thing I would ask about with Life is Strange.
What?
I'm honestly leaning towards Life is Strange because that seemed the most
I mean, it sounds like the
up
character
and
stuff
down
is done
between
relatively
all
well.
the games, and I don't think that's a bad
I mean, whoa. I mean, whatever. I guess I haven't played Until Dawn to make that argument, but
How's the
I
sci-fi
feel
plot?
the sci-fi,
Life
the
is
sci-fi. The only thing I didn't care about the sci-fi part of the game, without can't
Spoiling anything?
I don't want to spoil it because Chris will play it. Chris, you will fucking play it anyway.
I intend to play it.
I
want to
play it.
So, I think while the ending itself is good, the one thing that bugged me is that the mechanism for the ending, there's one part of it that I don't necessarily want them to explain. I just wish that wasn't the thing that brought me to my final decision. Because giant tornado that... But like, the game sort of explains the idea that Max's powers are having some negative effects because she's changing the timeline way too much. Like, she's not letting life sort of just, like, carry on its course. And I don't think and because it's not hard science and it's not overkill part of the story, it never takes away from the story either.
I mean, they say several times in the story, we'll probably never realize where these powers came from.
Yeah, like her...
That never does get explained.
There's no science to it in the grand scheme of things. It's there, but like it's there in the sense that she has powers. Like, but it doesn't go with...
It's a catalyst for its narrative.
Yeah, it's more a catalyst than it is anything else. That's a good way of putting it.
But
I have a hard time hearing that Life is Strange is gonna go, but Until Dawn, like I don't think that's fair.
I honestly I don't think.
But I also don't think
it's fair. Mario's still up here just because it's Mario. If it was any other level editor,
ROM hack. I actually say that too because
I'm sorry.
I know you love it and you made a hell of a good argument for it.
You know,
but
I mean,
Fire
Instincts also had a map editor.
I feel like a lot of I've never considered a map editor as game
because there's really no actual story mode to fucking Mario Maker.
Guys,
that's fine. Go, William.
Okay.
Can I propose a compromise?
What?
Compromise.
Life is Strange stays.
Okay.
Undertale goes, because we're pretty split on that game. And that way, everybody gets a game that they like into the top 10.
You get two. You get Rise and Ori and the Blind Forest.
I have to... Look, the only
nothing.
reason... and I'm not the only person who likes Ori, but I have to go to bat for Tomb Raider because... when the last one came out, we all said if it fixes these things, it deserves recognition. It fixes those things, and it deserves to be recognized for being an incredible sequel to a very, very good game. And I'm not going to let it go just because nobody else bothered to play it.
I buy their argument.
Undertale is the last game I'm passionate about in this list.
I'd sacrifice.
The last game I'm passionate about on this list too.
Until Dawn was the only game I was ever passionate about on the entire list.
I'll sacrifice Ori and the Blind Forest so we can get this going.
No.
Well, then Rise of the Tomb Raider. Or
Life is Strange, then. If you're not that passionate about it,
that's
Life is Strange seems like.
I think Life is Strange is.
All right, wait, hold on, Chris.
Yeah.
Go.
What?
Just name a game. What are you thinking is the game that's cut? Considering you're the least invested in all 5 of these.
Life is Strange.
This is fucking madness.
Number 11.
I'm about to cut Life is Strange. Is anyone going to stop me?
No.
I'll do it for you if you have the strength.
Made a hell of a run.
I think it's way better than Undertale.
I absolutely agree with that, but let's just...
I offered you the Undertale compromise.
This list.
That's just fucking madness.
I can't believe we're making a list that has a bad game on it.
This wouldn't be the first time we put...
I don't know. The Until Dawn's on there. I mean, Until Dawn. I like to play my video games, not just tell a character...
Well, I guess last year we had to put Hearthstone on, so...
What? Hearthstone is great. QRST. When did O come after you?
In my
alphabet. I'm sorry, I didn't know we were alphabetizing it.
Yeah.
I don't even care. I'm just happy on Undertale's on the top 10. It could be number 10. In fact, it probably should be number 10.
Probably is.
Except for
it's definitely 10.
Number 9 can be Mario Maker.
They both say number 9's got to be Mario.
Yeah, I'm saying Mario Maker. No, it's Rise of the Tomb Raider actually. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
William, it's a good fight.
I'm okay with that.
See, we got the
but then no. But then absolutely, Super Mario Maker is 8.
Yeah, we got 8, 9, and 10 already. Boom, boom, boom.
See?
And then I mean, logically, I think.
Wait.
Typing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already have the bottom 5 of this list.
See, this is what we say.
It just falls into place.
Here's what I'm gonna say: the top 3, regardless of order, is Rocket League, Metal Gear, and Witcher 3.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think it's not that I don't. For instance, I probably think Bloodborne is better than The Witcher 3, and I'm sure someone else thinks Bloodborne is better than Metal Gear. Bloodborne's better than Rocket League, but I think I am the passion for Metal Gear, Rocket League, and Witcher 3 is on a different level.
I would say that. So that would make 7.
Want to say Until Dawn?
It always comes down to the top 3.
I don't know. Are we willing to put Until Dawn over Super Mario Maker?
Yeah, I think
I'm willing to do that.
I think Until Dawn should be. Well, hold on. I think Until Dawn
is actually our 10th.
Is 10.
Yeah,
I think
Mario Maker.
I think it's in the right spot. I don't know.
Nope.
You're the only one, and that's the thing. We got multiple people who like Undertale, but only you are really going to bat for.
But more people tried to cut Rise of the Tomb Raider, so maybe it should be number 9.
Fine.
I'd be okay with that. Until Dawn, number 9. Rise 10. Undertale. I mean, I like it more. I argue since it's more of a game than Super Mario Maker, it should be higher. But I mean,
oh, absolutely. Actually, you know what? Wait, no, Super Mario Maker over Undertale. Ugh.
I'd say that's pretty fair.
Fine.
Then Ori is 6.
No, I would say Undertale over Super Mario Maker because Undertale's more of a game.
I think Splatoon should be at 6.
I am actually going to argue that it's Bloodborne at 6.
No,
Really?
get out of here.
I think Bloodborne's number 4 all day.
I think Bloodborne's number 4 as well.
Yeah,
why?
Bloodborne's number 4 all day.
I'd be okay with Bloodborne number 6.
I would also be okay with Bloodborne.
I'd be okay with Ori number 6.
So fuck.
Oh, you know what? That's that right.
I've never played Bloodborne.
Ori's number
I
6.
fucking love the art style of it, so it's got to be higher than that because it's
Ori's number 6. Come on, people.
Ori is 6. I don't
Ori
put
is
Bloodborne at 5 and Splatoon at 4.
I want Ori in the top 5.
Get out of here.
You got Tomb Raider on this list.
Yeah, you got Tomb Raider on this list.
You've used up your.
Well,
your
fuck you. You're the reason Life is Strange is gone. Fuck Will's opinions for the rest of this podcast.
You're never gonna leave that one.
So here's the question: the big 3.
I offered Undertale, Phil. I'm just saying.
I would have agreed with
Other
that.
of us, non-you, actually liked Undertale.
All right, wait, hold on.
Okay. So let's.
I mean, we're all convinced Bloodborne has to be 4th because I think Bloodborne made.
Yeah,
I would be fine
really like
Bloodborne and
Splatoon.
Splatoon switching.
Nah,
I think
I'm fine with
Splatoon
that
might
too.
have a slight edge because it's.
You guys have a weird Nintendo.
but Splatoon also did launch incomplete. Remember that.
That's
Bloodborne
fine, but it's complete today.
That's right.
But so is Destiny
At least
today.
Splatoon doesn't
But
have
that's
dramatic
not how-
aberrations.
We're not doing. We're no longer doing 2014's top 10. We're doing 2015's
Will,
top 10.
slow your roll.
Yeah. Well, let's slow this down.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, I mean, he's ahead of the curve.
I also like how completely fresh Splatoon is.
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I'm rolling with.
I'm all about
Splatoon
recognizing
sneaking
freshness.
into the top 5. I don't think it's a better game than Bloodborne is.
What,
I mean-
Splatoon?
Yeah.
All right, fine, whatever. But I will say this: Splatoon is a fresher experience than Ori and the Blind Forest.
That's why it's number 5.
So
I say that.
I think Splatoon belongs in the top 5. So the only
right.
argument is anyone really pressing for Ori over Bloodborne?
I would be, but I know.
But if we're not cutting Bloodborne that low, then yeah, Ori can take 6.
I have more interest in playing Bloodborne over
I
Ori.
think Splatoon's better than the third best Dark Souls game.
Sure.
Dark Souls 3?
Well, I'm not.
It's not a Dark Souls game. I don't
It's
know what
not better
All
than.
right, whatever. The point is, okay, whatever. We got Bloodborne at 4th, Splatoon at 5th,
At 5th.
Ori at 6, Super Mario Maker, Undertale, Until Dawn Rises. Until Dawn made this over Life is Strange. Fuck you, Phil.
There's always one Phil game.
Phil is like a fucking
I had
magician
one
with
game
this
that I
shit.
wanted to
good
get on this
argument.
list.
He will sacrifice every other game to make sure his one game makes it. That's Phil's strategy. It's pretty sound.
This is
I'd be
the-
okay with
The other games I
Undertale
was going to
Mario
fight for
Maker.
were already locked. I don't know.
Yeah,
This is
I
the
mean,
top 3.
honestly, I feel like Phil and I did pretty good in this top 10.
Yeah, we did.
I'd be okay with Undertale and Super Mario Maker, but like I'm not even super strong about that. So
Whatever.
Really, the only
All right.
games I was passionate for.
So
are-
I think that The Witcher 3 is a solid number 3.
Get out.
I
disagree.
100%
I
agree.
disagree
I
100%.
absolutely disagree.
Wrong.
all right,
Oh.
Absolutely disagree.
All right, let's
So-
get into it.
So I have an idea. We all go through what our top 3 of the last 3 should be, and from there we'll have a good idea
of what's third at least.
Of what's third at least.
All right, fine. Wazzy lead.
Number 1.
You gotta answer honestly. You gotta answer honestly. You're
number
not
3.
Okay.
Number 3, Metal Gear Solid 5.
Okay.
I do like Rocket League and Witcher 3 better.
All right.
Number
Chris.
2 would be
Witcher 3.
Rocket League.
You are
number 1
stoned.
will be Witcher 3. Sorry.
Man.
Oh man.
Fucking Chris.
I cannot stop playing it in
Chris.
My next.
Yeah, Ben, you're next. It's alphabetical order.
All right. Witcher 3 is the one of those I haven't played.
Good answer.
So unfortunately, okay, that's
Witcher 3, number 3, number 2, Metal Gear Solid 5, number 1, Rocket League.
Brian.
Okay. I also did not play any Witcher 3.
Good answer. I love these already.
But I might put it above Metal Gear Solid 5.
Fuck you. What?
Yes.
Because I actually played Metal Gear Solid 5.
So you're gonna put Metal Gear Solid 5 at 3.
I would play Metal Gear Solid 5 at 3.
All right, so Witcher
3
2?
at 2, and then Rocket League number 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never knew. This is the
okay.
ultimate example of people love Chris more than Goggin. Fuck you, Brian. Chris.
Metal Gear Solid 3 at number 3, Rocket League number 2, Witcher 3 at number 1.
If Metal Gear Solid 3 is in this conversation, get the fuck
Then
out.
it's number 1.
Yeah, but no, continue. I get what you said. You said Witcher 1, Rocket League 2. Mine is Witcher 3 at 3rd, Metal Gear Solid 5 at 2, Rocket League at 1. Phil?
Witcher 3 at number 1, Metal Gear Solid 5 at number 2, and Rocket League number 3.
I can't believe
that.
In fact, I would have
that.
personally, I would have cut Rocket League if it wasn't on the lock list. So,
I would.
Oh, what madness!
You know, I
didn't like it as much as you guys. I don't, whatever.
Yeah, that's whatever.
I put Splatoon over Rocket League on my own.
Like we've already had enough awful cuts today with Life is Strange. Cut Rocket League. William.
Metal Gear Solid number 1, Rocket League 2, Witcher 3 number 3.
What are the people that watch Friday Night Lights and then cut the Full Hearts game?
Look, all I'm saying is 2 of those games play great and one of them doesn't.
Yeah,
They're remote control cards. Chill.
I mean that seemed like a pretty relatively even split for 3rd place.
So that's between.
I mean, all I'm saying is by William's statement, all of those games play well. One of them doesn't play as well as the other 2.
I'm just saying we're a video game podcast and we should reward video games.
Listen. I've gone on record. I think The Witcher 3 has a good cast of characters. The world is fucking fantastic. The questing is top notch. The choice system that they've been in a class of their own for the longest time in that department. But the combat's always been my big misgiving with that game. It's not poor. It's not bad. It doesn't ruin the game. It's just, I don't think it's particularly good. And if we're not going to get the traction for Rocket League over it, which I think is silly, I think Rocket League plays phenomenal. I have a hard time saying Metal Gear Solid 5 for all its story. Like, I understand that the story is stupid, but it has to take one for the team. Because the story is stupid, even though it plays significantly better than The Witcher 3 to me.
I have more problems in the story with that game, though.
I disagree.
I agree.
I think Witcher 3
absolutely plays better. Witcher 3 is not nearly.
I don't think. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I understand why you have misgivings with the gameplay. Before we get to that, I am saying this though. Here's the things Metal Gear absolutely does better. Like pure game feel. I mean, can we really argue Metal Gear Solid 5 isn't tight?
No.
Pure game feel. Okay. Then
I can.
I mean, not loose or tight, but I mean, like,
you would be wrong, Chris.
Yeah, you'd be
no, when he's crouching, he can be a little fucking finicky sometimes, and it really pisses me off.
I guess
Okay.
you run yourself into rocks.
I mean, I guess, sure. Like, overall, I mean, come on, Chris. Overall, are you really gonna say the game feels worse than The Witch?
No, it's not worse. I'm just saying it's not perfect. Not even.
I mean, it doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'm saying it's like, but it is tight. It is an
If this is
echelon.
a racing game, Metal Gear Solid is a lap around The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
In terms of game feel.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Whatever. We don't need to. We don't need to get into hyperbole. I'm saying the game feels there.
I think The Witcher 3 is doing more, to be honest with you. So I can't agree with that.
But I think the mechanical depth is definitely there for Metal Gear because of the sheer amount of options you have in Metal Gear Solid.
Well, you have a fuck ton of options with Witcher as well.
But
I mean, you have.
But here's the thing: once you start building,
I think
full package,
full package, The Witcher 3 outclasses both of these games.
Agreed.
I do too.
I mean, I have a hard time buying the full package thing when.
I mean, you could get the full package.
You're telling me that the gameplay part.
You got to put in a whole lot of.
Because I don't think because I do think the combat is a detriment at times. Like not again. Like I don't think it's poor. I just don't think it's that good either. Like it's okay. It's fine.
Good enough to make the top 3.
Hey, listen. Listen. I'm passionate. Listen, I'm passionate, but I am not like crazy thinking we were gonna get that game to 7th. You know what I mean? Like I absolutely think it's one of the 10 best games this year, and I've enjoyed listening to Chris talk about how much he loves that game right up until he starts bad-mouthing one of mine. But I just think
a natural extension of my argument.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is I originally agree with you on the combat, but then I really started examining how I was approaching each fight and realized it's not the combat that was wrong; it was my approach to it.
What difficulty did you play on?
What?
What difficulty did you play on?
Witcher?
Yeah.
I'm just playing on normal difficulty.
Okay, fine. Carry on.
That's I do for all the games.
That's fine. Just carry on. Just carry on. Just continue.
And I found out that I'm just not doing this right. I'm relying a little bit too much on blocking, and I'm not situationally aware of my surroundings as well as I could be.
Yeah, I mean, the larger thing is in The Witcher, it's not necessarily the blocking or even the parrying. It's about using your dodge for positioning.
Well, and
like, you need to use your long and your short dodge appropriately.
Yeah, and that's when I learned that everything got a lot better. And then I started playing more with the signs and the equipment.
Yeah.
Yes.
So all of a sudden I had all these other tools, and it seems that different enemies just require every combat
up to a certain
experience.
Point.
It's just so far where I'm at. So far I'm about 15 hours in. I just feel that it's just the combat isn't as detrimental as you say. At first I thought, oh yeah, it's gonna have the same problem with Witcher 2 where the cameras get all shitty.
Witcher 2's combat is bad. Like there's no getting around that one.
But I just ended up enjoying it much more. Now every time I go fighting, it's just I enjoy it a lot more. I don't try to shy away from the combat at all. I see a challenge and I'm like, oh, this is going to be fun, and I have fun. And I like how it doesn't pull the whole fucking. This is more of a scenario design. It doesn't pull the whole Elder Scrolls thing where it's just combat 24/7.
No,
you go out to the world and you get attacked by 50 things. They pace it so you can
go throughout that whole world and never deal with combat. Actually,
yeah, if you really wanted to. I've run away from situations and I didn't feel bad that I did.
Yeah. And usually the monsters feel like they're in places that feel like they should be there.
It's like nests.
Yeah, you're going to thick of
design.
Or it's like the thick end of a forest and not like the middle of the freaking road.
I like that. Like if you kill a bunch of bandits in one area and then come back, within a day there, that there'll be ghouls that are there, like feasting on the bodies that you left there. Like that's awesome. Like
but that's scenario design that plays into the combat, and since I just feel so well realized, I like it.
And it's still not as good as Metal
Gear. Hold on. So here's where my displeasures come from. All right. First and foremost, I did play the game on Death March, which is the hardest difficulty in the game. So I'm not going to take any fucking you suck at the game from any of you because I have immunity as far as I'm concerned. But I will. Here's the thing. Here's where I will concede. I will meet you halfway. Part of this could very much be that Death March isn't as well tuned as the rest of the game, which is fine.
I don't think it is.
Which is fine. Which is fine.
I turned it down.
All right, fine, fair enough. Let's all concede that part of this could be a Death March thing. Here's the thing. I think what Death March does is highlight some of their misgiving. Like, when the combat works, right? Like, I have no problem with the way he pirouettes, because, first of all, that's how the books are written. He does a pirouette thingy with his sword. Like, that's just how they fence. And realistically, for people who like Monster Hunter and the Souls games, like, we like games that have very deliberate animations. We love Resident Evil 4. That's literally what The Witcher... Like, it's still... Whether you like the way it's deliberate is whatever, but, like, the point is it's a similar design principle. Your attack animations are deliberate. When you hit X, GG. Like, you're committed to this now. Like, it is what it is. Right? So I have no problem with that stuff. I also have no problem with the way the dodge system works. It's smart that they have a short and a long dodge. That's actually a pretty clever design. There's a few things that undermine it. First and foremost, there's no camera center button, which is either on mouse and keyboard or on the gamepad. And we've had that in third-person action games like this since Zelda, Ocarina, right? That
you guys cut
becomes
Monster Hunter.
Yeah, we covered it. It wasn't just a lock on.
And
I think
are you sure about that?
100%, because it would either be one of the triggers, which no, that's the signs.
No, there is none, but I don't think it needs
Or you would hit the stick. You absolutely do need it for things like this.
I don't think
but
you
when
need
you
it.
move forward, doesn't
No,
the
so
camera
here's
just
the thing.
automatically...
Here's the thing.
Yes, it does.
The camera does move, but like the camera moves in Bayonetta and Ninja Gaiden. Doesn't mean you don't want it to center sometimes. But here's the thing. Here's what I'm trying to say. When the game is out in open fields, non-issue, because the fields are just too big for the camera to ever be an issue. Although sometimes I don't like the fact that you can't lock onto the bigger monsters. That's stupid, but whatever.
I feel the when you're in doesn't work
when you're in caverns or tight places, that camera is irritating, and because of the nature of the game where they're gonna hit hard and you're gonna need to like actually like position yourself, you're not gonna hit as hard as they do, you need to use your traps more. Like for instance, the very first cave you go to with Kira Mentz, right? That first golem fight you do, good scenario because it's a big circle, right? 6. Yeah. And then that golem fight works because it's a big circle. You have enough breathing room. What I didn't like one of the big points in that game was the very next room you deal with this gargoyle in this like very tight hallway, right? And he has a stomp move, which you really can't dodge, even if you do the long dodge. And I was like getting my health. And he throws things at you, which you can't dodge. In my case, I didn't buy the. Did you? I think you can buy a skill that lets you parry projectiles.
Did you abuse the signs enough? Because
yes. No, here's the thing. My build is a pure sign build. I've done is invest in the sign, so I'm not heavy on the parrying. For instance, archers give me a little bit more trouble because I don't have that skill that allows you to parry their arrows. Right?
I do.
Like, so you get what I'm saying. Like,
So you fucked your build up and you're not blaming
No. If I was blaming the archers, you would have a point. I'm saying, here's what... But, like, this sequence we all have to do at the same... It's in a similar context.
It's pretty early.
But, like, he is... And it's early on.
It's early depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, and then another scenario. For instance, the Bloody Baron quest. When you have to deal with the botchling. If you... don't fight that thing and are doing it because you want to be a nice person, you have to deal with a bunch of wraiths in this really in a space that's actually more confined than initially looks. And because of the way the wraiths work, they tend to teleport behind you, which is fine when you're dealing with one of them, but when you're dealing with 7 of them, it's
Are you fighting wraiths without using the Yrden side?
No. I use the magic trap, which is the Yrden.
That you can't teleport.
One of them can't teleport. They can't. Like there's 7 of them. 7 of one of them.
No, but you cast a ring around yourself.
Yeah,
ring around.
So, so if they spawn behind you, it would still take like a year and a half for them to swing at you. You should be able to get out of the way by then.
Fine, but like with 7 of them,
I did find that particular encounter might have happened a bit too early if you take it on too low level.
I mean, whatever. But
just that might have been like.
But that goes back to. But that also goes back to some of the the difficulty balance in the game itself. Because whatever. Like the level, like the encounter designs haven't gotten any better. But like once I got to Novigrad, difficulty became like what difficulty, which is fine. Whatever. Like we accept it because RPGs inherently had that balance issue, which whatever. Like the alternative is they.
Well,
do levels.
I mean, specifically this game because it's so open and you can encounter things at such different times. The scaling is not.
Yeah,
there's scaling there, but it's not like ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't want level scaling because that just
we'll
ruins
repeat
the whole
Oblivion again.
I also think the loot system is fucking garbage. Not because of anything like I want my numbers where it's like. Other than Witcher gear, oh my god, is some of that loot just ugly as sin.
Yeah, that's why they give you quests to go get Witcher gear.
Yeah, and then that's why all these other people who are like his starting gear ended up being the coolest looking gear I saw for the longest time, and then after that he's wearing bed sheets that are stronger than his starting Witcher. How do you like that? That makes no sense by the third game.
It fits the world way better because you're not the Witcher gear is the unique stuff that's built just for his character. The rest of it is just more powerful layman's gear.
I mean, you say that, listen, I'm willing to accept it right up until the point where we go over this highly trained, badass Witcher had armor that was inferior to bed sheets.
Okay, and that's where the
About 2 hours
shit comes in.
into Hearts of Stone, you can get the Viper gear, which looks just like the beginning.
Yeah, but
start
we're
of
not
Witcher
talking
here.
about Hearts and
Yeah,
Stone.
we're not talking-
Hearthstone is
part of the
totally
game.
included in all of
Yeah,
this.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm saying like you're not gonna go do Hearts of Stone as soon as you start that game. You're gonna
You
go
could.
do.
I guess I don't see that
do
as
parts of
an
it.
issue. I like for the fact that I don't look like some wow.
But either way, like the
Great
cat
guy
skull
halfway
gear,
through.
the Urson gear, like the Griffin gear, they all look
All
better.
I'm saying
They're
is
gonna
like
be
some
better
of the
forever.
other gear could have been a lot
You can upgrade
better.
those.
I'm saying
you know,
like he could have had something better than like bed sheets for the longest time.
I mean, the way you're playing is you're expecting to get like loot drops like Diablo, but
I don't want it to be
what
like
they
Diablo.
actually
I just
intend
want
you to do
is
is
sell
to
that
pick a piece of armor that you like and then upgrade it.
That's fine,
That's
except
what they intend.
I don't like a lot
That's
of
what
the
they
armor
intend?
I'm getting for like the longest time in the game. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think that's a huge draw.
It's
Like,
not a huge like whatever. That's like oh my god. I'm just saying like there were little things like that. It's a bunch of little things The Witcher does on the gameplay front.
I don't know.
that just make
I
playing it
didn't wear
nice.
anything except for Witcher
You
gear.
didn't wear anything? Nice.
I didn't wear anything except for Witcher gear.
Yeah.
That's the only stuff I wore.
doing it the good old fashioned. Just
And,
So, like, I had
and then
the
when it
cat
comes to
school
the
gear, I
camera
had the
itself,
Griffin gear, I had the Urson gear. Like,
and when it comes to the weird soft hard lock thing it's got going on, I think both camera systems are way too finicky for their own good.
you played it with
I
mouse
never
and
had
keyboard,
an
right?
issue.
I
I
played
never
that
had
game
issues
with
with
mouse
camera.
and keyboard and the gamepad. The only reason I stopped playing with the gamepad is I'd rather have hotkeys for my spells than use that power wheel. But
enough.
otherwise, both cases, like I think
you can
say
assign your
I'll say-
spells to a quick button. But yeah.
I
You know,
feel
it's
that the
quicker
game
to have
plays a lot
hockey.
better with the controller.
I mean, there's
Maybe-
certain aspects of it. I mean, listen, they made some great improvements over the years too. Like the standard walking speed this guy had. Fuck that.
Oh, that's actually my one biggest gripe of the analog controls. There are none for the
Yeah.
movement speed. They use the analog stick that's still mapped digitally. You only have 3 speeds of running: a walk, a jog, and a sprint.
Yeah, but you can change that in the menu now.
No, you can't. It doesn't. It changes how he reacts to sudden movements, back and forth. How the inertia and momentum is applied. Not his. I thought that too, and everyone told me to do that. It still is a digital. There's a hard point when you have the analog stick at a certain angle. Then it kicks into the next stage. That's the one thing that I wish they would address, because that would make the analog stick feel even 1,000, way better.
Yeah, but
Now
you
it's
can
like-
sprint though, right?
Yeah, but that's if you hold A.
So I'm not understanding what the problem is.
The problem is that with an analog stick, you're still getting, it's still digital. It's still
But that's
still
like every
finite. Well, no, because in other games you get the whole where I can move just a little bit here and there, and that actually makes it kind of difficult when I'm trying to get my prompt to open up this chest, but I keep.
Oh, one of my treasure chests is freaking glitched in what's that area called? Velen? It's so annoying, but like whatever.
And then he like does a spin move and stuff because they want to play through the whole animations. If they would have just had the standard analog control without the two level thing, it would actually play a lot better. But that's one of those things where they built the game knowing that most people on the PC will play with keyboard and mouse.
Nah, that's debatable. I think a lot of people do play with a gamepad, to be quite honest.
I think they're crazy not to.
So,
because
Witcher 2 at number
combat's
2?
a lot easier.
Witcher 3 at number 2, I mean.
I can't go in with Metal Gear Solid at number 1.
Why not?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, no, let's get into that.
Witcher
Let's get into that.
better.
Yeah.
I have so many problems with Metal Gear Solid 5.
Go, Chris. This is your moment. This is your floor
This
now.
is my moment?
Yeah.
Finally. Okay, so I was actually, for the first chapter of that game, in total agreement with you guys. Metal Gear Solid 5 was my favorite game of that year. However, once Chapter 2 kicked in, and the story became...
Oh, wait, time out. Wait.
Are we going to talk about the story?
That's just my first problem.
No, Chris, before you get, you're allowed to get through. Here's my thing. The reason why I'm only halfway on the difficulty thing on The Witcher 3 is that I feel when you play Metal Gear Solid 5, the harder missions, all those missions do is like highlight how good those mechanics are.
Okay.
Like if anything, that game comes out smelling like roses on the higher difficulties, whereas Witcher 3 I feel like gets exposed. Now,
Well,
There's way less to tune there.
I mean,
Let's be real here.
I mean, you say that, but like all
And
I
don't
say
play
that,
it.
but there's
Well,
like
I'm like-
8 higher difficulty missions out of
Don't
40.
play Metal Gear with a mouse.
I'm not arguing about fighting enemies that are higher level than me. I'm saying like basic animation, like combat.
Also,
design.
the skulls are a terrible fucking enemy.
They are an awful enemy. Now continue,
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah.
I hope you
So,
brought your rocket launcher for that one.
seriously. So, first
That
half
could
just
awesome,
run away.
awesome stuff. And the second half hits, and the story just becomes disjointed as hell and
nobody cares, Chris.
Stupid. Okay, so
It's always disjointed. I don't know what you're talking
about. The missions now are super repetitive because now you're locked behind side mission walls. Again, Phil pointed out to us that you shouldn't have done side missions, but at no point does the game tell you. So if you're just a normal person doing side missions at the same time that you're doing main missions, you're going to be possibly locked in a situation where you're forced to do side missions or forced to do harder missions of earlier missions to get progressed through the story, which is a terrible gameplay mechanic.
Agreed.
You have to wait. I always found this annoying. You have to wait for certain things, sometimes hours wait for certain vehicles and upgrades and weapons to be produced in game time, which is, or no, in real life time, which is stupid as well.
Agreed.
The world we just talked about, The Witcher 3, has an amazing world that always feels vibrant, always feels alive, always feels like you're going to encounter something around the corner. Metal Gear Solid 5's world is dead. It's completely devoid of personality. I never felt like I was about to experience something new.
It's almost like it's a war-torn area.
It's almost like it takes place
so was
and
Witcher
everyone's
3.
dead.
It's not interesting.
Witcher 3 was a war-torn area, and that felt fucking great.
People live there. The point is, carry on. Let's not get bottom line.
You're going to the same...
I mean, bottom line is that the setting creates a place where you just, move on from that.
Yeah, where I just don't care. And because I'm revisiting the same place over and over again that don't evolve or change in any meaningful way, at least with The Witcher, I'm constantly going to new areas, so maybe it's a new mansion every single time that has its own kind of unique art style. Metal Gear Solid 5, I'm going back to the same places. Maybe the enemies have slightly changed their gear, or heaven forbid it's the skulls, and then I just don't want to play the mission because it's an annoying, tedious piece of shit. Like, the second half of that game, I've never walked away from a game and had a complete 180 by the end of the experience. I was so soured on that game by the end of it. It just lasted way too, overstayed its welcome so much.
That's a lot like how I felt. At least that last thing where I was so high on that game, 30 hours in, and I was done with that game 60 hours in.
Couldn't even get to the 60-hour point before I'm
I got almost 100 hours.
You guys barely played it.
Listen. You guys all say that, but then I was playing that game again just recently because you can't listen to podcasts while playing The Witcher 3 because I actually care about the story, and you can't. And I wanted to pay attention to the story in Soma and Undertale.
Maybe you can't play.
Well, whatever. Fuck you. Anyway, I like to pay attention.
There is a pause button,
Yeah, whatever. I want to play something while I'm listening to a podcast. So, I actually ended up going back to some of those side ops. Here's the thing: as repetitive as they are, and I would agree that there's way too many side ops. It should be way less than 157. At the same time. Because of the nature of that game, because of how good those mechanics are, because of how open some of those fields are, because how tight the level, the level design, I feel like in Metal Gear Solid 5 has been this weird unsung hero where it's not being given enough credit, because people focus on the part where it's very dull and samey and not enough on how well structured everything is. That freaking palace, what is it called, the Calamite Palace?
That's the only place where I actually felt that a level.
But that's no. That's the one that everyone seems to focus on. But I felt like when you go back through Metal Gear Solid 5, especially when you do the harder missions, you feel like areas you felt were it's just average. It's just typical open. Then you play it again from a different angle or a different view or do something a little bit different. You're like, oh, wait a minute. There was actually a different twist here. This is actually better thought out than I thought it was, even initially. Average levels... I go back to and I feel like, wow, this is actually really good. And then the excellent levels, I go back and I go, oh my god, it's even more excellent. OKB0, to me, is an excellent fucking place.
There's a lot going on with
I think, the people on GAF, for instance, pointing out that Camp Omega is a better area than anything in Metal Gear Solid 5. And there's a degree of truth to that, but at the same time, I think that just speaks volumes of how good Camp Omega was and not necessarily how poor Metal Gear Solid 5 is, because to me, that power plant is an excellent area to just sneak around in. And if you want to be an asshole and go max stealth, badass as fuck. The Walker's fun to use, D-Dog is clutch, and while everyone focuses on the fact that Quiet is overpowered because she can level everything, she's not as good of a scout as D-Dog is.
D-Dog is, no.
And
you play the areas completely differently when you have both of them.
Yeah, when you have D-Dog, I feel like he's better suited for a proper full stealth playthrough at times, because Quiet will leave you one too many blind spots, especially if you're playing with like certain things off. And that's the other thing. Modern games, when you take away, like, play Splinter Cell Conviction, just turn this off. I was like, no, the game was, like, you can't play Hitman Absolution and turn off Detective Vision because the game's basic navigation is built around that. You can play Metal Gear Solid 5, never use markers. You could play Metal Gear Solid 5, and you don't need reflex mode. You can play Metal Gear Solid 5. There's one other fucking mechanic.
I turned off reflex mode. It was too easy.
I turned off reflex
mode. I turned it off.
On the PC, if you don't turn it off, game is too fucking easy.
I mean, in general. But that's what I'm saying. There's like a level of customization to some of the difficulty. I wish the game had proper difficulty settings, because Kojima's always been exceptional in that regard. To me, like, playing Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 on Extreme, all that ever did was highlight how good the actual gameplay was. And fuck everyone that doesn't like the controls. And it was a little disappointing that he only got enough time to do what isn't ideal, in my opinion, which is just do some of the missions on Extreme and pure stealth. And what's the other one called? It's the subsistence version of the missions. Because I would have loved to play...
I mean, it doesn't excuse it, but, like, the last year development on that game was just very
and here's the thing, while I don't like the structure of Chapter 2, the one thing I couldn't bring myself to agree with was that those main missions in Chapter 2 don't play well when they're on a higher difficulty, because if anything, they are better than the main missions you play up until that point, because the difficulty adds a level of tension to that gameplay. And just, again, like, highlights all these other different systems. Whatever. The skulls are garbage. None of us disagree with that, right? The skulls are terrible.
Skulls are bad.
No one likes fighting
bad.
them. The story.
I liked the skulls originally, then they kind of became shit. Yeah. Story's not getting good.
It goes beyond story for me, because Chapter 2 isn't just the story's bad. I feel like it loses all the missions, main and side, lose all sense of context, and it's just like a blur.
Yeah, that I agree with. Chapter 2's structure is terrible.
What are people's thoughts on FOB stuff?
FOB?
I tried it. I don't like it.
The PvP sounds fun on paper. It's a fun thing
on this day in time. The FOB stuff have effectively ruined the entire game.
Yes.
No, I'm serious. It has. Like, the game is fucking unplayable now because of the 2 updates they implemented.
In what way is it unplayable?
They steal resources from you, for one.
Right.
Wow.
It is almost impossible to max out that game without actually spending money on fucking microtransactions.
Right, max out that game. Right.
The max out stuff is impossible, and I really like the change, like with like the online money and the offline money and stuff. That's just like spiteful.
Yeah, so I was actually
resources you can't farm them at all anymore. Like you get 75 for something that would give you 7,500 before. Like they've put such a strain on the in-game economy.
Oh, they changed that.
You thought it was bad before when you had to wait 3 hours. Well, guess what? You have to like farm for like 2 days before you can even wait for 3 hours.
I mean, at the same time, they also added. There were some updates. Like they added
like the insurance for your
they also added a reward system, which is based on every little thing you did, like how many people you marked, how many missions.
Yeah, I think the reward
and
system
I got
seriously offsets that.
So many fucking. I'm rich in that game, and I can't accept all my awards.
Well, that's not my point, because I have everything you can possibly have in the game.
Yeah,
but like that makes me. I'm not going to go back to the PS4 version ever anymore.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to go to the PC version. I'm going to use Cheat Engine.
Okay.
Like that's why I honestly, if you're asking me, I think MGS5 should be number 3.
I find it funny.
What world do we live in?
I put MGS.
Chill against Metal Gear. Anyway,
I put MGS3
time out. I'm trying to say a point here. I think for the amount of times we have bad microtransactions over the years, this was the one thing that I thought would be the hurdle for Metal Gear Solid 5, because I was like, it always did leave a sour taste in our mouths when we would go, yeah, here's this annoying thing Konami did again to a game that plays really well. Right?
I traded the game in.
If the game
it wasn't even your
the
Xbox
same
One,
now,
that doesn't count.
It was my game.
If the game was the same as it was, when it launched today, then I'd feel differently. But if the game is effectively worse, anyone who buys it on a recommendation at this point in time is going to get a lesser game.
All right. So what you're saying is Rocket League is the best game this year.
No, I'm saying The Witcher 3 is. I think Rocket League
Witcher 3 is, but
take the L and stay at number 2.
But unfortunately, because you got Witcher 3 and Metal Gear Solid 3 with, we're kind of split. Rocket League's kind of sneaking up there. to be number 1.
Yeah, but we already talked about this. That
I think.
So
it is
yeah, Rocket League
absolutely ridiculous that we are considering putting the game with the worst gameplay at number 1. That is
Rocket League has
antithetical
the best
to
gameplay.
every discussion we have had as a podcast.
Rocket League is one of the best playing games I've ever played in my entire
How
life.
can you possibly criticize Rocket League's gameplay?
No, he's
not
saying
talking
Witcher
about
3.
Rocket
He's talking
League.
about Witcher 3.
Oh, Witcher
talking
3?
about The
Okay.
Witcher.
All right, wonderful.
Well, here's the thing: worst gameplay in the context of these 3 games.
Yeah.
But I still don't think it's bad gameplay.
I think it's better. I think it's better than Metal Gear
I think
Solid
it's just
5.
a better overall game. Like, I think it's a better overall game than any other game on this list.
I mean, if we want to go on pure gameplay alone, Rocket League's the best of the 3.
If you want to go on pure gameplay alone, there's probably other games that are like, in the top, 6 through 10
Yeah,
are better.
I mean, I would still go back to Metal Gear, but
like Until Dawn. So
I would concede Witcher 2.
if we're going gameplay, then I mean, honestly, Bloodborne's the best game on this list.
Yeah, I agree there too. Yeah, I agree.
But we're not. We're going full game.
Wait. Here's the thing. I only nominated Bloodborne to go down low because I was thinking, all right, we're gonna do the whole Souls franchise fatigue thing. Listen, I still come back to this. It's just the only reason I put Metal Gear and Witcher 3 higher than it was the idea that I felt like Chris is way more passionate about Witcher than he is Bloodborne, and I'm way more passionate about Rocket League and Metal Gear than I am Bloodborne. It has no disrespect. Like, Bloodborne's fantastic.
I think Bloodborne's number 2.
I haven't played it, and I'm sick of Souls games every fucking year getting on this goddamn list so high.
I'm with Will. Bloodborne for me would push.
It didn't
Rocket
last
League and
year,
Metal Gear down.
We didn't have a Souls game on our list at all.
Last year, yeah, Dark Souls 2 didn't make our list. I'm coming.
You guys weren't happy with that game.
No,
I was, but yeah, I would say Bloodborne's a better game than Rocket League or Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, that's.
I would absolutely say it's a better game than The Witcher 3. Chris, you're right.
No, incorrect. Witcher 3 game of the year.
I mean, when you look at total
what
size,
Witcher 3 is our game of the year.
We can't ignore the absolute massive size of Witcher 3 and what that is.
Congrats, it's big. Who cares?
I do.
It's big and also good.
It's also fucking quality all the way through. It didn't just do 157 repetitive fucking side missions to make it look like it was bigger than it is.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm
that
sorry.
is the most reductionist bullshit.
That isn't reductionist because The Witcher 3 actually isn't anywhere near as repetitive about that shit as Metal Gear Solid 5.
No, not that. You can argue repetitive. Game world size is not dependent on repetitive.
I didn't mean the size, physical size. I meant it's not only big, it's also loaded with good content.
Yeah.
It's just broad,
like,
so much good stuff.
When we were talking on the podcast, I told to Ben and Chris, I don't want to use the words it has bad gameplay because I think the questing is top notch. My beef is entirely the combat. This one
that
element
is the gameplay. The questing system is
not, though.
interface.
It's not
the
the
gameplay
only
is
thing
partly
you do in that
movement.
game. It's not the only way you interact in that game. Exploration is a part of that gameplay. Like, exploring that world is absolutely part of what makes playing it fun.
Gwent is a part of that gameplay, and that's the best game on this list either way. Right, Phil? Gwent.
That's right.
Bro, listen.
Oh yeah, Gwent is the best playing thing of the year.
That's right. Gwent is probably the
clear
card game.
Talk about a little mini game called Squid Jump.
No. We need to finish up. So, guys, honestly, I'm willing to take one. I think The Witcher 3 earned it.
It's been
I
a year
agree. Listen, William. The only thing, if it wasn't for the microtransactions, whether they impact our happiness or not, it is true that game has gotten only shadier since its release.
And Rocket League has gotten better with free shit.
Also, the fact that I have to wait 24 hours in real time to make a nuke, pretty stupid.
Yeah.
And Rocket League, I think I've had my best moments playing video games with Rocket League this year.
When we were down 3-0 and the other team was shit talking and we came back, it was awesome.
Like, those highs have not been matched by anything on this list.
Then Rocket League should be number 1. I agree.
I'm not against
I don't think so.
No.
I am absolutely
I don't care.
against The Witcher being.
It's such an elegant game.
See, but now you're just being spiteful. You're
now
not
you're being spiteful. The problem with that is you didn't play The Witcher 3.
I'm not being spiteful.
I haven't played The Witcher 3.
If the game has all these gameplay problems that you guys admit, we shouldn't
well,
be
here's the thing.
I have disagreed with.
Yeah, all Adam, Chris, and Phil did was I don't agree with that. It's only me that doesn't like this part of the gameplay.
Yeah, but I don't agree with that isn't backed up by, like, this is why it's good.
I mean, listen. I agree that they're crazy, but right now, I don't know, man. Like, it's not a bad
I just want to
thing.
make sure Rocket League gets its due.
Rocket League would get its
deserves its
so I
due.
can't argue.
Rocket League is unbelievably fantastic, and if Witcher 3 wasn't as big...
So here's the things that I guess you could levy against Rocket League. It's a sports game that doesn't have an actual proper franchise mode. Regardless of it is a sports game. It should have one of those. I understand that you're not going to create an athlete, but an owner mode.
That is your athlete.
Yeah, whatever. That doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't have a proper.
No, I disagree with it being a sports game. It's an arcade game.
I put a top hat on my car.
I wouldn't put it.
It's like NBA Jam.
There's been plenty of sports games that are arcade games. ESPN.
You don't want a franchise mode in NBA Jam.
I don't think a franchise
modes are in NBA Jam now.
I don't think franchise mode would add anything.
And they're bad.
How are they bad? You're still going to play the game.
The game is bad.
Well, listen, whatever. The point is,
you want to play the game, and the Rocket League as a game
is fantastic. Fantastic.
And it's only gotten better in time too, with all the crap they've added.
So what you're saying is,
and
Rocket
it's not
League.
like I kind of even like when we brought up StarCraft, like how I was thinking about this is like StarCraft is a much deeper game, but Rocket League is so elegant because just from the basic movement mechanics, there's this huge learning curve in terms of how you manipulate the ball and how you move down the field, and it's so satisfying to get better at it in that way. And
it's just so much better when you're playing with a team that knows what they're doing and you're communicating. There's not much like Rocket League.
4v4 is garbage.
Well, yeah.
4v4 is silly.
I would never go back and
the
play
times
more
I've had with
Rocket League
Goggin playing 2v2,
Best
which are
game
well
I played this year.
documented.
Yeah. I mean,
Fantastic.
I really love the fact that Ben tried to point out that he wasn't a bad teammate when I showed visual footage. It's now public record that he was clearly being a bad teammate. So that's
Think
been
of
a great.
that satisfaction you got from Rocket League. No other game can provide that kind of thing.
Metal Gear at its heights does. I really love the way Metal Gear. Like, look, I'm with you that it's soured at the end, but like the whole time I kept going back to Metal Gear, I was like, man, for 90 hours, I thought that was the best game this year. For 90 hours, I thought that was the best game this year.
But of course, we can't.
For 218 hours, I thought that was the best game this year.
I think it is ridiculous that it's just like it's not as good at the end. Okay, whatever. Who cares?
No,
I mean,
no,
hey.
No. I think it is a
systematically
fundamentally
ruined
worse game than it used to be. So, I cannot. There will never ever be a point in time now where the game will be as good as it was at launch.
I don't agree with you, folks. I've been playing it since launch, and I don't have a negative impact from those.
You didn't
things.
play it as much as I did.
That's fine, and maybe it hurt you, but when they put
those
in
patches
when they put
make
in the
it a
challenges,
worse game. Chapter 2, it's not great. The game is fundamentally
Yeah, that's
unfinished.
the one thing. Like, as much as we don't like, as much as I don't like the combat of The Witcher 3, the one inexcusable thing of these three games is Chapter 2.
Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. And this is
Phantom
Philip
Block.
Hartmeyer of Legal Sound and Body, Sound Mind, saying this, is not the best game this year.
Which I never, ever,
I thought it
ever
would
would have
be.
seen.
I can send that recording back in
life.
time.
Remember
We last year
365 days ago when they
Last
said
year-
guaranteed Metal Gear Solid 5 Game of the Year.
Yeah, that was last year. We guaranteed that was going to win.
Hey,
this year.
listen.
Third
It
best game of
is.
the year.
Hey. I also did say that it was Kojima proof. That was my
Let's
mistake.
not forget here.
if we told you, don't say that, and then no.
Kojima, I don't think he was the problem here.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
Konami.
Probably.
But
Yeah, I'm going.
if The
Hold
Witcher
on.
3 was
All
not
right.
as good as it actually is, then I would be arguing MGS5 for Game of the Year.
Nah.
If The Witcher 3 is that good that it would actually... I have an entire case in my house dedicated to Metal Gear. That's not a lie. I've shown Goggin and Will. Like,
Yeah.
The Witcher 3 is that fucking good.
Damn.
Yeah, it's hard to.
That's not
All
an
right.
argument.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with
You know what?
Witcher
All
3.
right, top three: Witcher 3, Rocket League, Metal Gear. One,
Yeah,
two,
I'm
three.
fine with that. I'm fine with
I'm
that.
good with that.
Yep.
Disagree, but doesn't matter.
All right, so there you go.
top
Giant
10.
Bomb Game of the Year. Here we go. The Witcher 3.
Giant bomb.
What did I say? Yeah, I did. The Endless Backlog. It should be. Their list sucks. The Endless Backlog 2015 Game of the Year top 10. Number 1 and our Game of the Year. I should do from the bottom up.
Yeah,
Number 10, Rise of the Tomb Raider, developed by Crystal Dynamics. Until Dawn, developed by Supermassive Games.
Yes.
Undertale, developed by Toby Fox. Number 7, Super Mario Maker, developed by Nintendo. 6, Ori and the Blind Forest by Moon Studios. Number 5, Splatoon, developed by Nintendo. 4, Bloodborne, developed by From Software. Number 3, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, developed by Hideo Kojima Productions. Fuck you, Konami. Number 2, Rocket League by
Hideo Kojima.
Written by Hideo Kojima. Number 2, Rocket League by I don't know how to say that word.
Psyonix?
Psyonix.
Yeah.
And number 1, and Game of the Year, drumroll, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Woo!
Which does not deserve it at all. But.
And Will is against it. All right.
And Will is salty.
That is our Game of the Year podcast. Please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. Gentlemen, I'm out.
We did
All
it.
right. Night.
Been here long enough.
We did it.
Well done.
We did it, America. We did it.
Peace.
Peace.